Hello friend, John Dalton here with the Further Emergence podcast, where we explore consciousness, the mystery and love. And in this episode we're going into simple kindness, value, certainty, love, seeing beyond the surface, freedom, fears, and a little chat about sex and intimacy. But before that, let's have a review of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. I didn't write this one, but it's very good. It says, if you see someone falling behind, walk beside them. If you see someone being ignored, find a way to include them. Always remind people of their worth. One small act could mean the world to them. And that's such a beautiful thing to hold in mind. It's so easy to be caught up in our own reality and to assume everyone's okay and to not notice what's going on for other people. And everyone's got things going on. Everyone's got a lot going on. So this is just a lovely little reminder that if you see someone falling behind, just walk beside them for a little bit. Whatever that means, whether they're falling behind financially, whether they're falling behind in their love life, in their health, in their mental health, to just have that idea of walking along beside them. That's not to say you try and fix them or suggest, ways that they can repair their life or anything like that. That's not what people need. It's more to be seen and to be held. And what I mean by held is held in your presence. If you see someone being ignored, find a way to include them, bring them in. This thing of one small act can really mean a lot to them. It's so true. So true, the number of people, that haven't done irreversible things because somebody smiled at them or because some small kind act, because when things get very dark, it's very easy to feel that no one's going to notice one way or the other what's going on for you. And for you to just shine your light on someone, just even temporarily, it helps them remember that now there's a lot of people actually care about me. Next one, didn't write. It's very simple. It just says, be your own souvenir. So each time this meme comes up, I sort of see it in a different way. So this time when I put it up, I could see it more as a theme of what we've been talking about on the podcast, about what you can take with you. You can't take money, you can't take houses, you can't take possessions, you can't take your loved ones, you can't take your body, you can't take anything with you. Because you know what you can't, because it all disappears every night. Deep dreamless sleep. It's a bit of a giveaway. But what you can take is your consciousness, because that sustains. Even though you don't remember what happens in deep dreamless sleep, there is an echo in the fact that you're refreshed. When you wake up in the morning, you're refreshed. And what are you refreshed from? You're not refreshed from your dreams. They could be exhausting. You're certainly not refreshed from your thinking. That's exhausting as well. So it's the deep dreamless sleep part, and that's certainly the way it looks to me. The deep dreamless sleep part, that's the bit I'm refreshed from. And somehow that's a kind of an echo of what goes on there. I don't know what goes on there. My frontal mind doesn't remember, but I'm refreshed, and that's a throwover from what happens there. So the consciousness, my consciousness, is the only thing I can take with me by the looks of it. And that's what this means to me now, about being my own souvenir. That's what my focus on my consciousness has been all about, is about focusing, growing, deepening the one thing that I can take with me, my inner world, my inner life. So that's what I'm saying this means for me this time. I've struggled with this one, but there's something in it. It's very enigmatic in a way, or it means a different thing to me each time I see it. So that's what I'm going with this time. The next one is a quote from Bertrand Russell, who is a Nobel Prize winner for literature. He's passed away now, but he looked like a very thoughtful and kind man. That's what he looked like to me. He's not very kind in this, though, because he says, the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves and wiser people so full of doubts. And there's something very true about that. And the key word for me in this is certain. That fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves. I don't think of people as fools and fanatics. That's a bit harsh. But then he would have said this in the 60s or 70s, which is, how you describe people back then, I suppose. To me, it's all just unconsciousness, just in different ways. The same unconsciousness is in me. But this thing of certainty, I mentioned before, I had an exhibition of photography years ago that I toured around Ireland a bit. And it was beautiful photographs of nature combined with little quotes from the Tao of Being. And one of the ones, if I had to sum it all up, if I had to sum the whole book up, it would be in this phrase of, without the pretense of certainty, it's easy to be compassionate. Because it seems like certainty that's what makes people do awful things, because they're certain. It's the right. I'm doing the right thing. It's for the greater good. Like, I'm certain I know what the greater good is. It's for the good of humanity. I'm going to kill all these people. It's just terrible things. And we do it in our own way, on a smaller version. Certainty can really get in your way spiritually. But it's lovely, isn't it? The idea of certainty. It's so solid and secure. And yes, this is a definite thing. This is the way things are. This is the truth. We're all searching for the truth. Well, I'm not, but, a lot of people are searching for the truth. But what's the truth? Like, there is some huge truth floating around up in space. There isn't, of course. So the more comfortable you can be with uncertainty, the better. But this point that wise people are so full of doubts, I would see that as full of uncertainty, or they're conscious of uncertainty, because the more you go into things, the more multifaceted things are. Nothing is certain. I mean, in a way, it's like the spiritual version of what in its pure form, the scientific method is about, which is, everything is just your best work in theory for how something is. As new information comes up, you change. You let some things go, and you other things remain, and you adapt and you respond to the new information. And in the inside, it's new consciousness. As you become more and more conscious, you can let things go, and you can be fluid on the inside. You're not rigid and certain about anything. It's all like flexible and soft, like water, which is another Taoist way of relating to things. So it's a harsh quote. The whole problem with the world, like, I don't know, the world is a problem. I know, like, Barry Long used to talk about the earth, and then the world is a crust on top of the earth. Again, he was a man of his time as well. So I don't think it's like that. I think that idea that we're separate from nature, that's got us into the trouble that we're in now with nature. And we're slowly beginning to realize, oh yeah, we're part of nature. So when he says the whole problem with the world, he's saying the whole problem with society, the way it is at the moment, is that, let's say, unconscious people, he's calling them fools and fanatics. Unconscious people are always so certain of themselves, or here's a better way of saying it, the unconsciousness in people is always so certain of themselves, and wiser people are full of doubts. I was only writing about this last week in the friendly notes I send out on Sundays. What friendly notes, I hear you ask? Yes, I send them out. You can register for them on the website, furtheremergence.com. I was talking about a little definition for consciousness and unconsciousness. And consciousness or unconsciousness thinks it is what it knows, meaning it knows this much and it thinks, oh, that's what I am, or that's reality. Whereas consciousness knows what it is, meaning consciousness knows it's vast and mysterious for the most part. So the more conscious you are, the less certain you are about anything, because you're very conscious of how big the mystery is. And your little experience of it is tiny. Tiny little speck of a very big thing. I didn't write the next one, but it's very nice. It says, keep my anger from becoming meanness. Keep my sorrow from collapsing into self-pity. Keep my heart soft enough to keep breaking. Keep my anger turned towards justice, not cruelty. Remind me that all of this, every bit of it, is for love. Keep me fiercely kind. There's so much good stuff in that. Keep my anger from becoming meanness. Isn't that that's not easy to do? You know, if you're angry, you just want to lash out. I do anyway. And it's like you're kind of talking to your consciousness. This is would be my little prayer to the deeper part of me. Keep my sorrow from collapsing into self-pity. So it's not like keep me from feeling sorrow. That's not what I'm asking. It's like let me feel it, but don't let it collapse into poor me. Why is it always happening to me? That kind of thing. Keep my heart soft enough to keep breaking. Oh my God, that's such a difficult thing to do. Because your heart gets broken once and you're like, that's it. No more love for me. No more relationships. No more people. But of course, then you become rigid. And you've met people who have like, don't talk to me about men. Or don't talk to me about women. You know, it's like they've closed down. They can't see people for people anymore. They're like, oh, here's a man. Oh, here's a woman. You know, depending on what they've closed down to, you know. Keep my heart soft enough to keep breaking. So difficult. Keep my anger turned towards justice, not cruelty. Same as the other one about not lashing out. Keep me fiercely kind. Fiercely kind. I love it when you have an adjective. I think that's what they're called. And the thing it's describing is the opposite. Fiercely kind. Beautiful. Didn't write this one either, but it's very good. It's kind of similar. It says, just because someone carries it well doesn't mean it isn't heavy. That's a good one to remember. Because it's kind of like that thing of just be kind to everyone because you don't know what people are going through. But you can make a fairly safe guess that they're going through something. Doesn't matter if they're smiling, doesn't matter if they don't look like they're going through something. They probably are. So this is just a little reminder of that. Just because someone carries it well doesn't mean it isn't heavy. Next one is from Buckminster Fuller, who was just a great kind of very interesting fellow who had lots of good ideas. He was very big into geodesic domes, or that's the thing I remember him for. But he was like a designer. But he also had lots of things to say about society, this being a good one. It says, we must do away with the absolutely specious notion that everybody has to earn a living. It's a fact today that 1 in 10,000 of us can make a technological breakthrough capable of supporting all the rest. The youth of today are absolutely right in recognizing this nonsense of earning a living. We keep inventing jobs because of this false idea that everybody has to be employed at some kind of drudgery because according to the Malthusian Darwinian theory, he must justify his right to exist. So we have inspectors of inspectors and people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living. So there's a lot in that. I'm just going to focus on the last bit. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about what it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living. It's a very revolutionary idea to think, I don't have to earn a living. I'm not talking about universal basic income or whatever it's called or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about the revolution on the inside of going, I've been told you have to do this to pay the bills, to pay the rent, to pay the whatever, you know. And maybe I don't. Maybe I don't have to just do that drudgery thing. Maybe I can do something that lights me up. Because when you find something that lights you up, you can do it all day long and it doesn't feel like work. In fact, you have this feeling of like, I'm getting paid for this. And you can get paid. Of course you can get paid. Doesn't matter what it is. That's one of the beautiful things about where we are now. If the thing that lights you up is miniature goats or thimbles or garden furniture or painting or dressing up as a comic character or baking scones. It doesn't matter what it is. If something lights you up, it is possible. I'm not saying it's easy. It is possible for you to spend all day doing that and to make all the money that you need to keep doing it and to have a nice life. It's possible. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. So this is this kind of revolutionary idea of what is it that I want that lights me up? And what lights you up this year mightn't light you up next year. You're allowed to change your mind. It's not like it's going to be written in stone. That's it now. You're a baker or you're a garden furniture maker or whatever. Because once you do it once, you can move it along to different things. So it's a revolutionary way of thinking on the inside. And it's very good. The last one I did write, and it's a bit confronting. It says, your fears are justified for as long as you justify your fears. And you can go, hang on a minute, that's not true. My fears are justified because they're justified. I encourage you to run this through your fears regularly. That your fears are justified for as long as you justify your fears. Because if you stop justifying your fears and just see them for what they are, they start to fall apart. It doesn't really matter what they are. And you may find yourself going, yeah, but John, hang on a second now. Let me explain why. And, sure. But what you'll be explaining to me is you'll be justifying your fears. And there's no justification for fears. You could be in danger, but that doesn't mean you have to be afraid. If someone's chasing you with a knife, your body's going to run away. Your body's designed to get you out of trouble. And if it can't get you out of trouble, well then that's terrible. But it's designed to do that. It's not getting you out of trouble because you had the sufficient amount of fear. It's not like, oh yeah, I stayed awake 3 nights in a row in the last week being afraid of this situation. That's how I got out of it. It doesn't work like that. What you did was you had 3 sleepless nights or 3 difficult nights. So, yeah, try it. Your fears are justified for as long as you justify your fears. Think about any of your fears and listen to the part of you justifying them. Going, no, this one, I can understand it on the periphery. Yeah, that makes sense there, John. But this one is justified. I'm justified being afraid of whatever. The circumstances are real, but the fear doesn't need to be there. That's what this is saying. Your fears are justified for as long as you justify your fears. And once you stop justifying your fears start to disappear. And surprisingly, you are not destroyed. You discover that you're not destroyed. Farm news. Main farm news this week was the donkeys were getting their annual hoof trim. I don't know what the technical term for it is. It's like getting their nails cut. Which is always a bit of a rigmarole. So I got a message from the owner of the donkeys to say they'd be coming on yesterday, Friday, to clip the toenails, do their hooves. I don't know what it's called. So the farrier has to come and do it. Now the donkeys they live wild and free. And the last time we did this, we spent about an hour trying to get them down off the side of the mountain and into the shed so the farrier could do his business. This year, I thought, I'm not doing that again. So the donkeys come down, they come by the house, like I'm on a lot of acreage here, most of which is, the farm, and then there's my little bit where I live in my house. And they come by the house and I give them carrots. And my 2 Scottish Terriers think they're donkeys because they like to get a bit of carrot as well. So whenever the donkeys are at the gate, there's always lots of barking and it's a bit of a deal. So they get their carrots and on they go. So when I knew that the farrier was coming, for the last week, every time they would come down, I'd bring them over to the shed and I'd bring them into the enclosure and I'd give them their carrots in there so they get used to the idea. And then all my conditioning paid off yesterday because they came down, we went over to the shed and I popped them in good as gold, tied up the gates, and I wasn't actually here when the farrier came, but the owner of the donkeys was, and it all went off very good. So yeah, that's the main farm news for this week. Donkeys. Next week, I think it's going to be the sheep are getting sheared, apparently, I'm told. We'll see. I'll report next week. So no questions this week, but something that's come up a few times in different ways is this epidemic of not having enough sex in long-term relationships. And people really being very distressed about it and very sad about it and feeling like they're failing in some way or another. And there's lots of different reasons for it, but the sadness often comes from an idea of how much sex they should be having. And magazines and articles don't help because they, you look at an article and it says, oh, you should be having sex every week or every day, or, depending on what article you read. Every month is fine. If, it's almost like, oh, if you've been with somebody for 10 years, if you're having sex once a month, you're doing all right, But what's very common is that people in long-term relationships are not having much sex at all and quietly despairing about it and feeling like, well, the relationship is over, or the spark has gone out of the relationship, and then there's all these other courses of how to reignite the spark, and then you meet these couples who seem to be having sex like they were when they were in their 20s, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? All this kind of thing. And from my perspective, it's a lot of pressure on a very small amount of time. Because you didn't get together to have sex. That's not why you're in a long-term relationship. You got together because of love, because you love each other. And it's easy to kind of forget about that. And there's a feeling of like, well, if I love someone, I should be having sex with them. I should want to have sex with them. And that completely ignores the complexity of life and how tiring life is and how easy it is to assume love is just going to, that love is self-sustaining and I don't need to do anything about it. It'd be like having a plant and thinking, well, I don't need to water that plant. I don't need to do anything with that plant. It's just going to keep going. They don't. And love is kind of similar. Unless you make it the center of your relationship, which it is already. It's not that it's not. I'm not suggesting you redefine your relationship. It's already that. That's why you got together with the person in the first place, was love. It's to not forget it. That's what I'm encouraging you. Don't forget it. And you're with the person for the love, not for the sex. That's not to say, oh, well, just resign yourself to not having sex. I'm not saying that at all. But to just put things in the right order, it's love. I am here for love, Really, when you look at your partner and you look at them and you go, well, when you ask yourself, what am I doing here? The answer is, or should be, I'm here for love. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm with you. The love between us. Then you can kind of go, okay, so I'm feeling miserable and my life is not so great because I'm not having the amount of sex I want to. I feel unattractive, I feel unwanted, I feel all these feelings and so on and so forth. Or, yes, I know I should be having more sex. I know it's really upsetting my partner, but I'm not because I've got my set of feelings. I've got my reasons for it. Because often it's unusual for both people to be okay with the amount of sex that they're having. Usually one will want it more than the other, So that's a lot of pressure on a very small amount of time, meaning, okay, let me give you the benefit of the doubt and say you are fantastic at sex. And when you do get around to it, you have this heightened pleasure that lasts for an hour, okay? I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt there. If you're like mortal people, It's 10 minutes of intensity, right? Now, okay, you might have all sorts of lovely foreplay and whatever, but it's a small amount of time, okay? So let's say you're having sex once a week. You want to be having sex every day, but you're only having sex once a week. So that's 168 hours in a week and 10 minutes. So you're miserable for the whole week because of 10 minutes. You're missing out on a lot of love for 10 minutes. Let's say you're having sex once a month, but you want to be having sex every week. It's the same again. Huge amount of hours that you're unhappy and miserable because of 10 minutes. So it seems to me that like sex becomes like a narrow gate. And it's like you're saying to yourself, I and my partner have to go through this gate together, or I'm going to be really upset for the whole week. If we don't go through that gate together, the whole week I'm going to be miserable. And the gate is this focused 10 minutes of sex. So I encourage you to, if that is the case, to zoom back, pull back, and realize that that gate is in a beautiful meadow, the meadow of love. And if you get rid of the gate, meaning you get rid of the focus on this very, we have to go through this gate together. If we don't go through the gate together, everything is terrible in my life. I'm terrible, you're terrible, our relationship is terrible, I encourage you to get rid of the gate, or get rid of the focus on the gate, and come back into the love, which is the meadow that you are in. Now, that is not that I'm not encouraging you to become best friends, siblings, anything like that. I'm encouraging you to refocus on the love. Put the focus on the love and then work from there. And by that I mean, I heard one person describe it as they were being asked about how they had a successful relationship. And they said, well, we go to bed early enough to have time to snuggle and play. I thought that was a lovely way of describing it, because they didn't say we make sure and go to bed early enough to have a half an hour of foreplay followed by 10 minutes of sex. Thinking of it in terms of snuggling and play is very much in the vibe of the meadow. So I encourage you to have a chat with your partner and go, what are we doing here? Why are we here? And to kind of reaffirm that you're there for love. And then go, okay, let's go to bed early enough to snuggle and play. And depending on which partner you are, if you're the partner who likes to have sex, more sex than your partner, they'll be like, hang on, hang on, are you trying to have sex with me? Like, no. Or if you're the partner who doesn't want to have that much sex, you're like, oh God, I'm being cornered. That's not what I'm encouraging you to do at all. I'm not saying go to bed and have sex. I'm saying go to bed and be in the meadow. Lie in the meadow together and be in the love together and see what happens. And what will happen is not easy initially, because you're bringing a level of consciousness to your love that even if you were having sex, you probably wouldn't be doing, because it's almost like, oh yeah, we're doing the sex thing. I do this, you do that. I know you like that. You know I like this. Bada boom, bada bing, and we're done. Great. Tick that off the box, and now I can be happy for the next little while until it builds up in me again. When you go, I'm here for love, I'm here for the love, it puts the spotlight on it. And as I've said before, Hollywood romantic love is lovely and it heals everything. And that is true. But in order for things to get healed, they come up. So it can be quite confronting. Even if you like, well, I'm not getting naked. That's fine. You can hide in a duvet, but just be in the meadow together and let love do its thing. It's very powerful. So I suppose that's a life hack, isn't it? Take the focus off the gate, which you kind of will go, oh, great. But then show up in the meadow every night. No nights off. Every night. Go to bed early enough. Because when you're on your deathbed, you won't be going, I'm so glad I watched all those seasons of that show on Netflix. I'm really glad I got that one under my belt. You won't. I guarantee you. But you will remember the love that you shared and that you were courageous for it, because this requires courage. To go into the meadow every night, do it for at least 21 days in a row, because then it becomes a habit. At least 21 days in a row. Into the meadow together. Now, this will break up certain relationships. That's what I'm saying about being courageous. But you're doing it for the love. You might do this and go, you know what? I don't actually like you anymore. I don't want to be with you anymore. I've been avoiding it. I've been avoiding facing it, but I can't stay with you. Or it's time for me to go. That might happen. But much better that happens than you spend the precious hours of your life being somewhere you don't want to be anymore. But that's not everybody's going to be like that. If you focus on the love will guide you through it in a beautiful way. So, yeah, get rid of the gate, come back into the meadow every night, go to bed early enough to snuggle and play, and let love do its thing. Let me know how you get on with that. All right, that's all I've got for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.